Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for convening this discussion. And I'd like to thank the many impressive leaders, civic leaders, religious leaders, and colleagues from law enforcement who are here. That ghastly spectacle in Minneapolis was really jarring to the whole nation, and it forced us to confront and think about, reflect on longstanding issues in our nation. Those issues obviously relate to the relationship between law enforcement and the African American community. But just to step back a little and take a broader view initially, I've been thinking about how do we achieve the full American dream for all communities, African American communities, all communities. And one of the reasons I'm proud to serve in this administration is because I think the President is moving forward on the critical elements necessary to provide and ensure that opportunity. First and foremost, economic growth. Without growth, there is no opportunity. Second, education. I think Condi Rice said a few years ago, it's the civil rights issue of our time, because without a good education, we are not allowing our young people to seize their opportunities and pursue their dreams. And as the President mentioned, it's only by empowering parents and giving them the power to choose the education for their children that we're ever going to be able to obtain that. Third, I think, is moral discipline. And our young people, they have to have the discipline to seize the opportunity, to make momentary sacrifices for later gain. And traditionally, that has come, and people can find it perhaps from many sources, but traditionally that has come from religion, which our founders believed was the foundation of our republic. And we have to stop policies that undermine religion or relegate religion out of the public square. But now I get to my job, which is safety. Without safety, you cannot have progress. You can't have a life, a decent life in a community. And, you know, this was struck home to me 30 years ago when I visited Trenton when I was Attorney General last time, and I went to a small barber shop in an African-American neighborhood, and there were people there in their 60s and 70s, and they said, "Mr. Barr, we're in our golden years, and we are living behind bars. Look down the street. All the bars are on our windows, and the criminals run free on the street." Now, we've made a lot of progress since then. The crime rate has been cut in half. And a big part of that has been improvement in policing and the progress we've made in policing. And yes, the progress that police departments have made in building relationships with the community. I think law enforcement has understood for a long time that there is distrust in the African American community toward the law enforcement system. And when you reflect on our history, you could understand why. Because for most of our history, just up until the last 60 years, the institutions in this country, the laws and the institutions were explicitly discriminatory. There was not equal protection of the law, by law. And it's only been since Jim Crow that our laws have been changed to provide for equal justice. And what we've had really since, and so the civil rights effort up until that time was to tear down institutions. But I don't think now is the time to be tearing down our institutions, because we've been on a march for the last 50 years of reforming our institutions. And we don't need to tear them down. We have to be mature about this, and when we see problems, we have to redouble our efforts to reform our institutions and make sure they're in sync with our values. And I don't think anyone who's honest would deny that we've made a lot of progress in policing over the last 50 years. And in fact, you know, one of the things about this episode in Minneapolis was how fast both the state and federal law enforcement responded to dealing with that action. So I think that while we saw something very bad, it has helped perhaps galvanize the will of the country to bring good out of that. And we can't let that incident obscure the fact that progress has been made, that policemen are by and large, by overwhelming majority, good, decent people who care about their community and put their lives on the line for us, their neighbors. And we can't lose sight of the fact, and can't let this event obscure the fact, that the real oppression and danger to our communities comes more from violent crime and lawlessness than it does from the police. Now, we've never had a president who was more committed to reforming law enforcement, and he's done that with the First Step Act and with the first police commission since Lyndon Johnson. And I'm very optimistic about, you know, what we're going to be able to do, given his leadership, but also given the leadership of our police forces, which around the country increasingly have become better and better led. I think the police profession is itself committed to addressing the issues that we saw in Minneapolis and completing the process of professionalizing policing in this country. And as the President said, we're working on a number of things through the commission that he set up, and also through an executive order to propel that process even faster by looking at how we can encourage the adoption of guidelines about the use of force that are acceptable both to the community and to the police profession, but also to encourage certification of police forces, and also through such activities as increasing grants to encourage the use of co-responders. More and more our police are being asked to deal with problems that you know, hasn't previously been the problem of law enforcement. They have to deal with homeless people. They have to deal with a lot of mental health issues. They have to deal with you know, drug addiction, the drug addicts and so forth. And providing some additional support to the police in these areas is going to be important. So let me just say that the Department of Justice is committed to support the President's efforts here, do all we can to bring good out of this bad incident. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.